In 2017, Southwest staked its future on Boeing's promise, ordering over 300 of the new 737 MAX 7 jets, convinced they would dominate short-haul skies by 2019. Today, those planes remain grounded by failure and regulatory chaos, while rivals like United and Delta rush ahead with Airbus deals. How did Boeing's smallest jet become the industry's most embarrassing disaster? And can Southwest or Boeing survive the fallout this unleashed? Southwest Airlines built its reputation on a simple idea: one aircraft, flown everywhere. For nearly 60 years, every Southwest jet has been a Boeing 737. This single fleet strategy shaped everything from pilot training to spare parts, and it fueled the airline's growth into the largest domestic carrier in the United States. By 2017, the numbers told a story of total commitment. More than 300 737 MAX 7 aircraft on order, with the first deliveries promised by January 2019. The deal's value, nearly $19 billion at list prices, cemented Southwest as Boeing's most loyal customer and the MAX 7's launch partner. The logic was hard to argue with. Southwest's all-737 approach saved millions annually in crew training, maintenance, and scheduling. The MAX 7, with its promise of 18% lower fuel burn per Seat compared to the older 737-700, fit perfectly into the airline's point-to-point network. It could carry up to 172 passengers, fly farther than its predecessor, and outpace the rival Airbus A319neo in both range and cost. For Southwest, the MAX 7 was not just another plane, it was the next chapter in a legacy that stretched back to its first flights out of Dallas in 1971. Executives from founder Herb Kelleher to current CEO Bob Jordan saw the MAX 7 as the key to staying ahead in a cutthroat market. The order book was more than a business transaction. It was a declaration of faith in Boeing's ability to deliver on time, on budget, and without compromise. Every projection, every financial model, every hiring plan relied on those jets arriving as promised. The stakes were enormous. A delay would not just mean waiting for new planes, it would threaten the very strategy that made Southwest unique. As the calendar inched closer to January 2019, expectations ran high. The future of Southwest's dominance depended on a jet that on paper looked unstoppable. On the balance sheet, the MAX 7 looked like a miracle. Boeing promised Southwest an 18% cut in fuel burn per seat compared to the 737-700, a number that could tilt entire route maps and rewrite profit margins. The pitch was simple: more seats, longer range, and lower costs, all without retraining a single pilot or changing a single gate. For years, that promise shaped every decision in Dallas. Fleet plans were built around those savings, hiring targets, route launches, and even maintenance budgets all assumed the MAX 7 would be flying by 2019. But as months slipped into years, the numbers on paper began to feel less like a guarantee and more like a gamble. Each annual fleet plan quietly pushed the MAX 7 further down the calendar. By 2024, Southwest had removed the jet from its official growth projections, then added it back, then pulled it again. The airline's legendary single-fleet discipline was starting to look like a liability, not an advantage. In March 2025, CEO Bob Jordan did something no Southwest leader had ever done. Speaking to analysts, he admitted the airline was now considering different aircraft for the first time in nearly 60 years. He did not name Airbus, and the implication landed like a shockwave. The fuel savings, the commonality, the entire logic of the MAX 7, all of it was suddenly in doubt. What began as an efficiency dream was turning into a source of anxiety. The longer the jet stayed on the ground, the more Southwest's rivals closed the gap. The airline's faith in Boeing was no longer unshakable. Instead, every new delay raised the same uncomfortable question: was it time to break with tradition and look elsewhere for the planes that would shape the next 50 years? The answer, for the first time, was no longer obvious. Inside Boeing's engineering offices, the smallest MAX variant became a technical riddle that refused to be solved. The engine anti-ice system, designed to keep ice from forming on the nacelle during flight, revealed a flaw that went far beyond inconvenience. In 2023, engineers confirmed that prolonged use of the system could overheat the carbon composite inlets, risking serious damage to the engine housing and, in worst-case scenarios, threatening the structural integrity of the aircraft. This was not an isolated quirk. It was a fundamental design problem that blocked the path to certification. The fix demanded more than a software patch. Boeing teams spent thousands of hours reworking the thermal management hardware, running bench tests, and simulating every possible icing scenario. Early redesigns failed to deliver safe margins. By mid-2025, the company abandoned its initial approach, returning to the drawing board to balance heater output with the airflow requirements of the CFM LEAP 1B engines. Only in November 2025 did Boeing complete a full hardware and software overhaul. But the system still faced a gauntlet of FAA-mandated tests before any green light could be given. Parallel to the anti-ice struggle, another challenge loomed. After the MCAS crisis, the MAX 7's stall management systems came under intense review. The FAA demanded a complete rewrite of the stall protection logic to address variant-specific flight characteristics. This meant recalibrating sensors, rewriting control laws, and validating new software through regression flight tests. Each change triggered a new round of compliance reports and audits, stretching the timeline further. The technical hurdles were not just boxes to check. They were the reason the MAX 7 remained grounded, with every new fix opening the door to fresh scrutiny. For Boeing's engineers, the promise of a quick solution had given way to a relentless cycle of redesign and revalidation, with no shortcuts left. On January 5th, 2024, a Boeing 737 MAX 9 operated by Alaska Airlines suffered a violent decompression at 16,000 feet. When a door plug tore away from the fuselage, investigators later discovered that 4 critical bolts meant to secure the plug were missing, a lapse traced back to Boeing's own factory floor. The incident forced the FAA into immediate action. Within hours, regulators grounded over 170 MAX 9 jets across the United States, launching a wave of inspections and audits across the entire MAX family. What began as a manufacturing oversight quickly spiraled into a crisis of confidence. FAA teams combed through Boeing's production records, scrutinizing every handoff between suppliers and every sign-off on the assembly line. The agency ordered sweeping audits and halted plans for any production increases. The message was clear: no more shortcuts, no more trust without proof. Boeing's requests for exemptions, like certifying the MAX 7 before all fixes were in place, were rejected outright. The FAA laid out a new, unyielding standard. Every redesign, every test, every compliance report would be reviewed in detail before a single new aircraft could be delivered. For the MAX 7, the impact was immediate and severe. The anti-ice system redesign, already a year behind schedule, now faced a gauntlet of additional FAA-mandated tests. The stall management changes, still incomplete, were subject to even tighter scrutiny. Boeing finished the anti-ice hardware overhaul in late 2025, but the jet remained grounded, waiting for the green light that never seemed to come. Certification, once expected in 2019, slipped again, with the public timeline from the FAA now pointing to August 2026 at the earliest. Inside Boeing, frustration mounted. Outside, The industry watched as the world's most scrutinized aircraft sat idle, each month of delay draining money and eroding trust. The Alaska incident had turned a technical problem into a regulatory siege, and the MAX 7's fate was now tied to the slow grind of government oversight. United Airlines did not wait for another promise. In early 2024, Chief Executive Officer Scott Kirby made his frustration public, telling investors, "The MAX 10 is out for us until it is certified." United had counted on the MAX 10 to fill a 100-aircraft gap in its fleet. But with no certainty from Boeing, the airline turned to Airbus instead. 40 A321neos were quickly leased, filling runways that had once been reserved for Boeing's next big thing. Each new Airbus delivery meant another route launched, another competitor's advantage erased. Delta Airlines took a quieter approach, but the message was just as clear. Chief Executive Officer Ed Bastian told investors he did not expect to see a single MAX 10 for at least 3 more years. In the meantime, Delta expanded its A321neo fleet, adding capacity and opening new routes while Boeing's customers waited. Bastian told shareholders he was very pleased with the performance and reliability of Airbus's offering, a pointed contrast to Boeing's ongoing delays. WestJet, once a launch customer for the MAX 7, ran out of patience entirely. In late 2023, the Canadian carrier converted all 22 of its MAX 7 orders to the larger MAX 8. The move was not about preference, it was about survival. WestJet needed jets it could actually fly, not promises stuck in regulatory limbo. The decision left the MAX 7's order book even thinner and signaled to the rest of the industry that waiting for Boeing carried real risk. One by one, Boeing's most important customers began to look elsewhere. The loyalty that once felt unbreakable now seemed fragile. For every MAX delay, Airbus gained ground. For every lost order, Boeing's grip on the narrow-body market slipped further. Airlines did not just adjust their plans, they rewrote them, choosing certainty over tradition. Airbus didn't just capitalize on Boeing's delays, it surged ahead with numbers that rewrote the rules of competition. In 2024, Airbus delivered more than 700 aircraft, flooding the market with jets that airlines could actually put into service. The A321neo, in particular, became the industry's new benchmark. For every Boeing MAX 10 sold, Airbus secured 6 orders for the A321neo. That 6-to-1 sales margin was not a fluke, it was the result of airlines betting on certainty and speed. The A321neo's order backlog dwarfed its Boeing rival, stretching years into the future and locking in production slots that once would have belonged to American manufacturers. United Airlines, once a cornerstone Boeing customer, signed agreements to lease 40 A321neos, jets that filled gaps left by undelivered MAX 10s. Each new Airbus delivery meant more routes, more passengers, and more revenue for United, while Boeing's customers watched their own growth plans stall. Delta, too, expanded its A321neo fleet, using the steady stream of arrivals to open new markets and reinforce its presence at key airports. Even airlines that had built their brands around Boeing, like Southwest, began to weigh the unthinkable, ordering from the competition. The numbers told a simple story. Airbus's ability to deliver over 700 jets in a single year gave it the power to dictate terms in a market desperate for new aircraft. Boeing's inventory, by contrast, sat idle, with roughly 35 completed MAX 7 and MAX 10 airframes waiting for certification that never seemed to arrive. As each month passed, the gap widened. The industry's balance of power shifted, not through slogans or promises, but through contracts signed and aircraft delivered. For airlines chasing growth, Airbus had become the only game in town. Southwest's operations team faced a reality they had never planned for. There were too few airplanes for too many routes. By early 2025, the airline cut capacity by 1%, an unthinkable move for a carrier built on relentless expansion. Flight schedules shrank, especially at key hubs like Dallas and Baltimore, where open gates and empty slots became a daily reminder of jets that never arrived. The hiring freeze hit next. Southwest had planned to bring hundreds of new pilots on board, but with no MAX 7s to fly, those jobs vanished from the forecast. Crew rosters tightened, training classes were cancelled, and the steady pipeline of new aviators dried up almost overnight. Competitors wasted no time exploiting the opportunity. Ryanair, flying the high-density 737 MAX 8-200, packed more seats into every flight, maximizing revenue on routes where Southwest once dominated. The difference showed up in passenger numbers and bottom lines. While Southwest trimmed schedules and paused growth, Ryanair filled cabins and expanded service, squeezing every possible dollar from its available fleet. The network maps told the story in sharp lines and missing connections. Destinations that once saw multiple Southwest flights a day now had fewer options or disappeared entirely. Passengers faced longer layovers, higher fares, and crowded alternatives. For the first time in decades, the airline's single fleet strategy looked less like a strength and more like a trap. Each grounded MAX 7 meant another lost flight, another frustrated traveller, and another rival ready to step in. The day-to-day effects rippled from the boardroom to the baggage claim, reshaping the airline's footprint in ways no spreadsheet could predict. Rows of unfinished 737 MAX 7 and MAX 10 jets now fill Boeing's storage lots, each one a monument to a promise undelivered. About 35 aircraft, built, painted, and ready for customers, sit idle, their engines sealed and windows taped, waiting for paperwork that never comes. Every month, the cost of keeping these jets on the ground climbs higher. Storage alone runs into the millions of dollars each year per aircraft, not counting the maintenance checks, battery replacements, and the constant vigilance needed to keep them airworthy. Financing charges pile on top, turning inventory into a slow leak on Boeing's bottom line. Inside Boeing's finance department, these parked jets have become a source of daily anxiety. Each undelivered airframe means deferred revenue, missed production bonuses, and a growing liability on the balance sheet. The longer they wait, the more leverage airlines gain in the boardroom. Southwest, once Boeing's most steadfast partner, now sits across the table with a list of demands. Every delay hands the airline more bargaining power, compensation for missed deliveries, renegotiated contracts, and discounts on future orders. The confidential side deals run into the hundreds of millions of dollars, draining cash that was supposed to fund new projects, not plug old holes. For Boeing, the inventory standoff is more than a logistical headache. It is a financial vice, tightening with each month of inaction. The company built jets for a market that moved on, and every idle airframe is a reminder that time in this business is money lost forever. Today, Boeing's delays don't just ground planes, they shift billions in market power. As Airbus delivers record orders and Southwest weighs breaking tradition, airline loyalty is tested on a global stage. The future of competition hinges not on promises, but on performance. In the high-stakes race for the skies, trust isn't given, it is earned, every single flight. What do you think this means for the future of aviation? Share your thoughts below.